All right, the criminal conviction of Harvey Weinstein is a milestone for the Me Too movement. Weinstein faces up to 29 years in prison after a New York jury found him guilty of a first-degree criminal sexual act and third-degree rape on Monday. The verdict comes nearly 2.5 years after New York Times investigative reporter Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey broke the story of Weinstein's sexual assault allegations. It helped ignite, of course, the Me Too movement, and around 100 women came forward accusing Weinstein of sexual misconduct and assault. Jodi Kantor is CBS News culture and gender contributor. Jodi, good morning. What do you think this verdict means for the Me Too movement?
You know, we've talked about Harvey Weinstein many times at this table. For the first time, we can sit here and say he's a rapist.
Yes.
He's a convicted rapist. Mm-hmm. The significance of that is enormous. And also, what people may not realize is that the importance of this goes beyond the symbolism of seeing him go off to jail. This was a long shot case. It was risky. How was this a long shot
case when you had over, I know there were 2 women, but you kept hearing over 100 women?
I know it's surprising, but only 2 women were at the basis of these charges, despite all of these other allegations.
And the circumstances were very complicated.
It was tricky. They both had consensual sex with him after the attacks. Now, that happens in real life all the time, experts say, but juries are often not willing to convict. They say, oh, it's too messy, or I don't believe
So what does this say then?
So this has the potential to reshape how sex crimes are prosecuted, whose voices are heard, and it may be an indication, now we're in New York City, but it may be an indication that juries are shifting in terms of what they'll believe.
What message do you think the jury was trying to send here?
Well, I think that they believed the women. The overwhelming message is that they believed the women, and it was a rejection of Donna Rotuno, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer, and the arguments that she made. She could have argued this case on narrow kind of surgical grounds. Well, you know, I know not everybody's crazy about him, but let me tell you the facts. She did some of that, but she made a much broader argument. She said, this is about the Me Too case going too far. She tried to paint the women as the manipulators and Harvey Weinstein as the victim, and the jury rejected that.
She was making these really big cultural statements about how it's an overcorrection. Women can't be women, men can't be men. But, you know, one of the first women to come forward, in fact, the first actress to come forward, Ashley Judd, what was her reaction to the verdict?
So a few minutes after we got the decision, I called Ashley and I told her the news myself. Mm-hmm. And she paused and took it in, and she said, this is how it's supposed to be. Yeah. This is how it's supposed to be. And then she said something else. What she said she still craved from him was an apology and an understanding of the pain he's caused. And that's exactly what he did not say. You know, he stood there after the verdict was announced. He was very still. And then he said, but I'm innocent, but I'm innocent.
So how can you get an apology from someone who doesn't believe that they've done anything wrong? Yeah. You know?
I mean, I'm not sure that's coming, but what this verdict, I think, does provide is some resolution. The Harvey Weinstein story now has an ending.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the final ending. He's still going to be tried in LA. His lawyers say they may appeal this decision. But right now, he's at Bellevue Hospital. He appears to be on his way to Rikers Island. He was remanded. He was sent to jail before sentencing, not even let
the chest pain
free. Exactly.
Today.
And so I think we can say this, even at this contentious time, even though Me Too is controversial, this story is beginning to come to a close.
Jodi, you broke this story in 2017 and spent a lot of time on it. When you heard that verdict, what did it mean to you?
I always was focused on the journalism, and I was focused on doing my job as a journalism, which, by the way, involves being fair to Harvey Weinstein as well. And Megan and I were always operating, even, you know, part of the reason we wrote our book, which we called She Said, to represent, you know, this idea of the women's voices. We knew the book had to stand no matter whether he was convicted or not. We said journalism may be the only form of accountability he faces. But, you know, I was in that courtroom during the trial, and I can't tell you what a solemn exercise in democracy it did feel like. It felt like those 12 anonymous Manhattan jurors were really listening to every word and really thinking this over. And they had to go into that room and not just decide sort of clear matters of, this fact and that fact. They had to talk about issues of sex and power and consent, and this is what they came away with. And remember that a jury decision has to be unanimous. So I would just say the moment was the moment was extremely meaningful when we heard the news. But then I think it's in the last 2 days when I see it reflected through the eyes of other people. That's when it really sinks in.
Yeah. Do you think other witnesses will want to come forward now?
It's a fascinating question. People may feel that he's behind bars or soon will be. Now I feel I can tell my story. I'm less afraid of reprisal. And what we've also seen throughout this process is that accountability drives more women coming forward, because you're not going to want to come forward if you don't think anything is going to happen as a result.
Exactly. Even if it's an end of sorts for Harvey Weinstein, it could be a beginning for many other cases.
Exactly.
All right, Jodi.
Thank you, Jodi.
Jodi Kantor. And we mentioned the book She Said, which you wrote with Megan Twohey. I highly recommend this book, by the way. It's profound. On sale wherever books are sold.